Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I want to talk about something deeply personal, yet universally understood. The moment someone sees you've truly moved on. Not with bitterness, not with drama, but with peace. It's easy to think that silence means weakness or indifference. But when a man sees that you've healed, found your strength, and no longer need closure, it hits him in a way nothing else can. This isn't about revenge. This is about self-worth, transformation, and freedom. So let's dive into what really happens when you walk away with grace and grow into the version of yourself you were always meant to be. You know, there's something incredibly powerful about peace. Not the kind that's performative, where you're pretending to be unbothered, scrolling through Instagram trying to make it look like you're thriving when inside you're still aching. I'm talking about real peace, that deep, grounded, quiet place you get to when you've finally stopped fighting for something that was already over. When a man sees that, when he realizes you're not chasing answers, not waiting for his validation, not trying to get his attention anymore, it hits him in a way nothing else can. See, most people expect drama after a breakup. They expect tears, arguments, emotional texts, the occasional "I miss you" message. It feeds the ego. It lets someone believe they still have power over you. But when you've truly let go, not because you gave up, but because you chose you stop showing up to that game. You're not proving anything. You're not trying to fix anything. You're just done, and that quiet exit. That peaceful exit, is what makes the loudest noise. Because here's the truth, nothing confuses a man more than the moment he realizes you don't need him anymore, not to apologize, not to make it right, not even to explain. Your peace tells him that he no longer controls the emotional temperature of your life. That's when it starts to sink in, not just what he lost, but how he lost it. Not to someone else, not in some dramatic showdown, but simply to your healing, and that's what makes peace so profound. It means you stopped centering your life around his choices. You're not running from pain anymore. You've walked through it. You've stared it down, made space for it, learned from it, and let it go. And now you're living your life not to prove a point, not for some dramatic comeback, but because you finally remembered your worth. That's what real peace looks like, and if he ever sees you again, that peace will say everything your words don't need to. You won't have to explain how hard it was, or how much you cried, or what it took to get here. He'll see it in your eyes. He'll feel it in the way you no longer flinch when his name comes up. He'll notice it when you're smiling, not because you're trying to make him jealous, but because you're genuinely okay. That's when he realizes he's no longer the center of your universe. And that's when, for the first time, he starts questioning his own. And that's the moment you win, not over him, but for yourself. One of the most unexpected things about moving on is realizing just how loud silence can be. After a breakup, there's often this unspoken expectation, especially from someone who ended things or thought they had the upper hand, that you'll react, that you'll send the emotional message, make the dramatic call, maybe even show up in some way just to prove that you're still affected. And when you don't, when you go quiet, calm, and collected, that absence becomes deafening. What most people don't understand is that peace isn't passive, it's a decision. Choosing not to react, not to reach out, not to entertain a back and forth isn't weakness. It's actually one of the strongest moves you can make, because it shows you're no longer controlled by emotion. You're no longer trying to get a response. You're not baited by the idea that their attention means your value. That kind of control over your energy, that strength, and when a man sees that you're not giving him any reaction at all, it catches him off guard. Not because he necessarily expected you to beg or break down, but because he assumed on some level that he still lived in your mind, that he still had a presence in your emotional world. But now there's nothing, no messages, no curiosity, no passive-aggressive story posts, just silence, and that silence, it speaks. It tells him you're not waiting anymore. You're not trying to remind him of what you were. You're too busy becoming something better. It forces him to sit with the reality that he's not being thought of in the way he expected. That your life is no longer orbiting around the memory of what the two of you had. He starts wondering, is she really okay? Has she moved on? Does she even think about me anymore? That internal spiral begins, and ironically, your lack of reaction becomes the most powerful reaction of all. Because it tells him something he can't ignore. You've taken back control. See, when you're still in the emotional cycle, still reacting, still looking for closure or answers, you're giving away your power. But when you go still, when you stop dancing around the aftermath and just live, you take all that power back. Your silence becomes a mirror, and what he sees in that mirror isn't you falling apart. It's himself finally forced to face what he walked away from. And the beauty of it is that you're not doing it asterisk for asterisk that effect. You're not going silent as some tactic to get a reaction. You're doing it because you've moved into a chapter that no longer includes begging to be understood. You've outgrown the need for explanation. You're just done. You're building peace, and peace doesn't need an audience. And nothing shakes someone more than realizing you're no longer performing for them. It's one of life's great ironies how the moment you stop trying to be seen is when you're seen the most. After a breakup, it's easy to fall into that trap of wanting to prove your worth. You post more, you glow up, you make sure your presence is felt. And sometimes that works for a little while, but there's a kind of attraction that runs deeper than appearances or staged happiness. It's the kind that comes when you genuinely stop needing to be noticed by them, when you've turned inward, done the work, and come out on the other side more grounded, more certain, more asterisk you asterisk. When a man sees that you've found your center again, that you're no longer looking backward or living in the past version of the relationship, something shifts. You're no longer reacting to him, you're not trying to show him what he lost. You're just existing in your own space, radiating a quiet strength. And that's magnetic, because most people aren't used to someone who doesn't need external validation to feel whole. The truth is, when you finally let go of needing to prove anything to him, you begin to attract everything back to you. But it's not even about asterisk him asterisk anymore. It's about how you carry yourself differently. You speak with more intention. You protect your energy more. You stop giving pieces of yourself away in hopes of being chosen, and instead you asterisk choose asterisk yourself. That shift, that internal change, it shows, and he notices. You're no longer looking for love to validate you. You've become someone who validates herself. And in doing that, you become deeply attractive in a way you weren't even trying to be. Because now, it's not about making someone miss you. It's about not missing asterisk you asterisk. You've reclaimed your time, your joy, your peace. You laugh differently. You walk differently. You're not weighed down by proving your value anymore, because you've already remembered it. That's the moment it hits him, not just who you are now, but who you've always been. even if he didn't see it at the time. And the irony is, now that you've stopped needing him to see it, that's when he finally does. Not because you forced it, but because your quiet confidence leaves no room for doubt. You're not auditioning for his attention anymore. You're not trying to remind him of what he lost. You're simply living in the version of yourself you were always meant to be, free, full, and unfazed. And when he sees that, when he truly feels that shift in you, something clicks. He realizes that the person he thought he had figured out has evolved into someone he can't reach in the same way anymore. And that realization stays with him a lot longer than any goodbye ever could. There's a moment that happens sometimes quietly, sometimes all at once, when he realizes you're not coming back. That the door is closed not out of anger, but because you've moved on with grace. And in that silence, in that finality, something unexpected begins to creep in. Regret. See, as long as you're still emotionally tangled, still reacting, still hoping, still checking in, he never has to feel the full weight of what happened. Because a part of him still feels connected, still feels like there's an open line between you. But the moment you stop participating in that loop, when your energy is no longer directed toward him, something shifts. You create a void where his ego used to be fed. And in that emptiness, he's forced to finally sit with himself. And that's when the real discomfort begins, because now, without your presence soothing his guilt or distracting him from his choices, he has to confront them. For the first time, he has to live with the version of the story where he is the one who let go of something valuable. And there's no one left to explain it away. You're not asking for closure. You're not looking for answers. You're not trying to be understood. And in your silence, you've given him the space to finally hear his own voice. And it's not always a comforting sound. Because now he's not just remembering the relationship, he's remembering how he handled it, the missed chances, the moments he dismissed you, the ways he could have shown up better but didn't. And with no more messages, no emotional reactions, no signs that you're still holding space for him, he starts to feel it, the absence of you. Not just your presence, but your belief in him. The version of himself that only existed in your eyes is gone, and what's left is the version he now has to face alone. And what makes this powerful is that you didn't try to force it. You didn't orchestrate some elaborate plan to make him feel bad. You simply healed. You walked away with dignity. You outgrew the narrative that required him to give you peace. And by doing so, you handed that emotional weight back to where it belonged, not as revenge, but as release. You found your closure in your own growth. And that left him with a mirror he can't look away from. He's not haunted by your words, he's haunted by the lack of them. Because when someone truly moves on peacefully, it forces the other person to deal with what's been left unsaid, not by you, but by themselves. And the most difficult part for him, realizing too late that you were never waiting for him to change. You were just waiting to remember your own worth. There's something incredibly powerful about the moment you stop trying to be who you were in the relationship and start remembering who you were before it. Or maybe, for the first time ever, you discover who you truly are without the need to be chosen, approved of, or kept. That's when everything changes, not just how you feel, but how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you show up in the world. And when he sees you've reconnected with your self-worth, it hits differently. Because here's the thing, when you're in a relationship, especially one that starts to chip away at your confidence, you can lose sight of your value. You start to shrink a little, you walk on eggshells, you question yourself more than you should. Maybe you even start relying on his view of you to decide how you feel about yourself. And that's a slow erosion of self. It happens quietly until one day you wake up and you don't recognize the person in the mirror, not because of how she looks, but because of how much she's given away. But when you finally step out of that space, when you no longer need him to reflect your value back to you, something extraordinary happens. You start building yourself again, not as a reaction to him, but as a return to you. You begin to honor your standards. You stop entertaining things that drain you. You invest in your own growth, your peace, your joy, and it shows. Not in a flashy, look what you lost kind of way. It shows in your eyes, in your posture, in your choices. And when he sees that, when he sees that you're no longer looking for his validation, no longer defined by his absence, it forces him to reevaluate everything he thought he knew. Because you're not the same person he left. You've evolved. You've become someone stronger, someone more certain, someone who doesn't just know her worth. She leaves it. You see, people can sense when you've outgrown needing their approval, and ironically, that's often when they want it the most. But by then, you're not looking for it anymore, because self-worth outshines history, it outshines nostalgia, it outshines whatever version of love he thought he gave you. Now you're not stuck in the past. You're building a future, one that doesn't depend on who stayed or who left. And that realization for him is heavy, because he starts to understand that what you brought to the relationship wasn't ordinary. It wasn't replaceable, it was rare, but now it's not his to hold. And no matter how much he might wish to revisit it, you're no longer waiting at that door. You're already walking through new ones, the ones you opened for yourself. And that's when he truly feels the loss. There's this moment, after everything has ended and the dust has settled, where you realize you don't want revenge. You don't want him to hurt the way you hurt. You're not even waiting for karma to do its thing. You're just done. And not in a cold, detached way. You're done in a peaceful way. A way that says, this chapter doesn't need to be rewritten or revisited. It's closed, and I'm okay with that. That kind of peace doesn't come easily. It's earned. It comes from sitting with the pain, not running from it. From taking responsibility for your healing instead of trying to get it from someone else. It comes when you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what can I grow from this? That shift doesn't just change how you feel, it transforms who you are. And here's the part people often get wrong. Moving on peacefully isn't some strategic move to make someone else feel something. It's not about inspiring regret or showing them you're unbothered. If your healing is still tied to their reaction, you're not free, you're still waiting, still performing. Real peace doesn't need an audience, and it definitely doesn't need applause. When a man sees that you've evolved not out of spite, not to prove a point, but because you had to, because staying stuck would have cost you more than the relationship ever gave you, that's when it lands. That's when he starts to feel something, because it's not a performance, it's not curated or forced. It's authentic, and authenticity is powerful. You're not doing better to be seen. You're just doing better because you've found your rhythm again. You're no longer trapped in the cycle of replaying every conversation, wondering what you could have said differently. You've stopped romanticizing the potential of who he could have been, and you're accepting the reality of who he was. That clarity, that acceptance, it frees you. It doesn't mean the past didn't matter. It means it doesn't define you anymore. And if he sees that, if he notices that you're not holding bitterness, not clinging to old stories, but simply building a life that feels whole, without him in the center of it, it creates a kind of reflection he can't ignore. Not because you wanted him to notice, but because real growth doesn't need to announce itself. It just is asterisk. You're not walking away with a grudge. You're walking away with grace, and that grace isn't weakness. It's power, because anyone can walk away angry, but to walk away peacefully, that means you've reclaimed everything you once gave away. Your time, your love, your energy, your worth. And when he realizes that, what you've taken back isn't just your heart, it's your freedom,